Stop using historical rolling 30-year returns to project your retirement plan. Cannot stress this enough. It's a huge pet peeve of mine. And when you hear my reasonings, you'll say, that guy Josh makes sense. All right, so I was listening to my man Graham Stephen today, and he had a video that was pretty interesting. And I like Graham a lot. He's entertaining, cracks me up, and I think he brings a lot of good information. Anyways, he's talking about Schwab and Vanguard and some other group says they expect returns over the next 10 years to be quite low. And I agree with that. I use the Vanguard models 100%. Now, the problem that Graham fell into, and a lot of people do, is they use a 30-year rolling rates of return to give you some kind of gauge of safe withdrawal rates and stuff like that. You can't do that, man. Don't. And I'll share with you why. So we're going to go into Portfolio Visualizer. All right, so I got a premium membership of Portfolio Visualizer. You can see my name, Josh, and we're going to go to Tools, and I'm going to do the Fund Performance. And then we're going to put Wellesley Fund in there, and Wellesley is born the same month and year as me, July of 1970. So Wellesley's my twin brother from another mother. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, so Wellesley, what have you done historically since 1970, or actually be 1971 for the first full calendar year? And we're going to come down here. We're going to see that Wellesley has averaged 9.93%. We're just going to round up to a nice round 10. With a standard deviation of 7.03. We'll round down to 7. All right, so then we're going to take our trusty whiteboard here, and we're going to show you what that means. So Wellesley has a 10% average with a 7% standard deviation. You times 7 by 3, and you get, it could be plus or minus 21% off the average, plus or minus 21%, which simply means we take 10 plus 21, no bargain, equals it could be up 31. 10 minus 21 means it could be down 11. So 99.8% of the time, given Wellesley's historic average rates of return and his historic standard deviation, we would expect the Wellesley to give us no more than 31% on the up and no less than 11% on the down. On the down is all we really care about, is the value at risk. But either way, which is almost exactly what happened in 2008. It was down 9.98 or 9.88%. So we're dealing that. So basically we're saying, hey, historically, Wellesley has averaged 10 with a 7% standard deviation. No, we're done. All right, hold on a second, ladies. So you would say, hey, I'm going to use a 10% average rate of return with a 21% 3 standard deviation. So I can expect 99.8% of the time I should be able to get between positive 31 or negative 11. And you'd be wrong. All right, so let me show you what else is going on. All right, so most people plan for a 30-year retirement. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Wellesley, and we're going to say we're going to start this in zeros. We're going to say 0101 1971 for the first calendar year. Then we're going to go forward by 30 years. It'll be 12, 31, 2000, right? Yeah, 2000. Yeah, right on. Because in 2000 I was 30 years old. All right, so now we're going to hit performance, and we're going to look at the metrics on the risk. We're going to say risk metrics. So now we got an 11.7% standard deviation. 11.7% rate of return, average rate of return, with a 7.7% standard deviation. So we'll round both of these up to say 12 and 8. 12 and 8. So we're going to take our trusty whiteboard, and we're going to say between 12 and 8. If we go from 1971 to 2000, we're going to say 12 is the average rate of return with an 8% standard deviation. We times 8 by 3, we get 24 plus or minus. All right, so far so good. So 24 plus 12 equals 36. And what's that? Negative, actually I don't know. Hold on a second, let me get my calculator so I don't screw this up. So you get your numbers wrong. It's negative 12. All right, so between 99.8% of the time, we should get no worse than negative 12 and no better than 36 between the Wellesley from 1971 to 2000, those 30-year time frames. Okay, everybody with me so far? So if you were to use that in your metrics, if you retired in the year 2000, well, you'd say, hey, it makes sense. That's what it did. All right, hold on. But the problem is that was the only 30-year track record we had. So now we got to say, well, how did it do from the next 20 years? And we can go to 2001 to today, which would be, I think it goes to 0731 2021. All right, so let's check it out now. So how would you have done if you use those metrics of Wellesley from that first 30-year time frame? Because remember, the entirety of Wellesley had a 10% rate of return, average rate of return, with a 7.03 standard deviation. The first 30 years had an 11.7 rate of return with a 7.7% standard deviation. Pretty significant differences there. We had, if you look at it, hold on a second, we take our trusty calculator, we were 11.7 minus 9.93 divided by 9.93. It returned 18% more on average over those 30-year times than it had for the entirety of the Wellesley inception. So from the first 30 years of inception, it returned 18% more on average than it has in the last 20 years. It's been around for 50 years. All right, isn't that interesting? The standard deviation, on the other hand, 7.7 minus 7.03, minus 7.7 minus 7.03 divided by 7.03 is 10% higher. All right, so basically the standard deviation of the entirety of Wellesley was 10% lower, I should say, than it was in those first 30 years. So you would have overestimated your volatility by 10%, and you have overestimated your total returns by 18%. If you retired in 2000 using the previous 30 years of Wellesley Income Fund. Now, that could have made a big difference on your what we'd call safe withdrawal rate. In fact, we even look at safe withdrawal rate. We'll do that next. Hold on a second. All right, so what I want to do now, though, is I want to go, what has it done for the last 20? And we're going to go to right here. We're going to go to risk measures. All right, blink. And we're going to say, oh, now we got an arithmetic mean of 7.4% versus a standard deviation of 5.88. So we're just going to say, we'll say 7.5 on the average rate of return and 6 on the standard deviation. Woo, that's significantly different now, isn't it? So we're going to go to standard deviation. We're going to take our trusty chart here, and we're going to say the last 20 years we had 7.5. We're going to times, well, that's our average rate of return, 7.5. 6% is our standard deviation, plus or minus 18. All right, so this is what we're looking at. 7.5 plus or minus 18. Plus 18, that gives us 25.5 on the up. 7.5 minus 18 gives us negative 10.5 on the down. All right, so Wellesley, in the last 20 years, we see a significant change. 99.8% of the time, we only got 25% on the up, and we got 10.5% on the down. That's fantastic. I'm still happy with that. But the average is 7.5, as opposed to the first 30 years was 11.7. All right, so now we take the first 30 years. We had 11.7 minus 7.44 divided by 11.7. It's 36.4% lower, the average rate of return the last 20 years than what it was for the first 30. That's a significant difference. It's actually even 9.93 minus 7, what is it? What did I get again? 7.40 divided by 9.93. Is 25% off of its average. So this is completely skewed by the first 30 years. So if you're using 30-year rolling, you only have two. You don't have two 30-year rolling times. You have one, 1971 to 2000, and you have a second 21-year time from 2000, or 20-year time, 2001 till now. That's it. That's it. And now your standard deviation wasn't off that much, and we still got 6% standard deviation. So it was off, don't get me wrong. So 7 minus 6 divided by 7, it's only off by 14.2%. So the average rates of return are way off. 36% and 25% versus a standard deviation being off by 14. Yeah. All right, so let's look at, I don't know if it gives a safe withdrawal rate. Let's check it out here. All right, so we're going to go to safe withdrawal rate. I can't remember. Yeah, right here. Safe withdrawal rate, 7.64. Perpetual withdrawal rate. That's if, what's the difference between safe and perpetual? I forget. Hold on, so let me find out. Look at my man Jim Otar, whatever his name is. Perpetual withdrawal rate. Let's see what we got. Hold on just a second. The only difference between the safe or sustainable withdrawal rate and the perpetual is that the sustainable withdrawal rate has a specific time period attached to it, but the perpetual has no time period attached to it. So the perpetual is literally in perpetuity. The safe withdrawal rate say, hey, I only want to do this for 30 years or something like that. So let's go back. So we got perpetual withdrawal rate of 4.82, a safe withdrawal rate of 7.64, but that's only for these 20 years. So if we go back to historic numbers, we're just going to say boink. Let's see what the difference was here. And we're going to go to risk measures. So perpetual withdrawal, 5.34 perpetual withdrawal rate into perpetuity with a safe withdrawal rate is only 4.87. Isn't that interesting? And I remember perpetual is forever, safe is for a certain amount of years. And so the safe withdrawal rate from 1971 until now is 4.87. But if we go to a perpetual and a safe withdrawal rate from those first 30 years, I bet it's going to look good, man. 01, 01, 1971 would be our, oops, we want that as our beginning date. Boink, 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 and boink. And we're going to go to 12, 30, oops, 31, 2000. All right. And we're going to go to historic risk measures, boink. And we're going to go down here, perpetual at 5.47 and 5.69. So it's a pretty big difference there. I mean, if you would have done it over the course of those 30 years, your safe withdrawal rate, even in the 1970s, was 5. You would have known that, 5.47. So basically 5.5 for those 30 years. I mean, that's all we really care about is your safe withdrawal rate. I'm not all that concerned about perpetual. Does that make sense? So your safe withdrawal rate for those first 30 years is 5.5. How can you factor in a safe withdrawal rate now, though? I mean, I don't know how you do that because you're like, hey, you're like, we're only 20 years in, man. You see what I'm saying? Into the second 30-year rolling time frame. And our safe withdrawal rate for right now is 7.38. Let's see what it was the first 10 years, though. All right, so we're going to go to 12, 31, 2009. So let's go to 1/1/2009. 01, 01, oops, 01, 01, 2000. There we go. And see what our safe withdrawal rate was there. Wait, hold on a sec. 13.28 for those 10 years. So that makes sense. I mean, I only got 10 years, man. You see what I'm saying? So in 10 years, like, yeah, I could have taken 13.22 and I've been fine. Good luck with that. Anyway, so the issue is that how do you use these numbers to forecast? I don't think you should use it. This is why I can't stand what Dave Ramsey talks about, using historical numbers and rolling 30-year periods. This is just Wellesley. If you look at Wellington, it's the same. Maybe we'll do another video on that. I will. All right, we'll see you guys. Love to hear your thoughts.